All right, everybody, welcome back. Um, Hope you enjoyed Dr. Skinner as our welcoming speaker this morning. Next up, we have Keri Kono, who is the Associate Director at Hawkeye Community College in charge of the Pathways to Education and Employment for Reentry. Pathways Education and Employment is a program developed by Hawkeye College in partnership with the First District to provide education and employment to services to individuals being released from the Black Hawk County Jail. They're living in Waterloo's men's facility or Waterloo's Women's Center for Change in Community Corrections. The overview of the process of creating the program is what Keri is going to talk to us about, as well as ongoing services, funding streams available, and hopes for the future. Keri?
Hello.
Hello, thank you for joining us today.
Yes.
As in the last session, if there are any questions, please put them in the chat and I will get those to Keri as time permits. Thank you all.
All right. Good morning, everyone. Let's see if I can get my screen sharing going. All right. Does it look like it's working? Yes. Okay, perfect. So first off, thank you everyone for having me today. I will say that Belle, who is our coordinator of our program, she's also on maternity leave right now. You mentioned someone else also is out. So she got this request a couple months back and then booted it to me because she anticipated being off. So I want to give her credit because she is the boots on the ground to the program and really has made this program evolve into what it is today. I got the joy of launching the program and creating the partnerships and the processes and all of that kind of stuff to get things going. But she is here in spirit, probably snuggling a baby right now, which I kind of envy her, but that's okay. So again, Randy introduced me. I am the Associate Director of Workforce Training and Community Development at Hawkeye Community College. We are located in Waterloo. So we have the First District surrounding us as far as from a Department of Corrections standpoint. And we do not have any prisons locally at all. So the Black Hawk County Jail, which is a pretty large jail, is right here within our community. So we are partnering with those entities within our service area. So just so you kind of understand that partnership between the community colleges and the different individuals on the correction side of things. Our department specifically at Hawkeye really tries to identify populations of individuals that we need in our community. Dr. Skinner made a comment in the opening remarks about how it's a community thing, right? A lot of the problems that we face is a community thing. We need to work on it together so that way we can, address some of these problems. So that's kind of what our department is tasked with, and that's why we're considered community development within the community college spectrum, because we really just try to tie together that education and training with different community items that come up on the docket. So the agenda for today, we're going to do a program overview, different steps that we took to create the partnership that we have today, what services we're currently providing, as well as how do we fund it, right? Because that's always the thing. We always need resources. We can't make anything happen if we don't have resources. So I'll go into that a little bit about how we got started so that way if you have any thoughts or ideas on how you would want to maybe replicate something that, some things that you can look at, as well as just future plans. I have never been to a conference of this sort, and I have no idea who is even in the room. So I don't know if I'm able to see the chat. Randy, will I be able to see the chat if they put in their, I can't see it on my computer because this might.
There might be an option at the bar that pops down either on the top or the front to click on the chat button, and I think it might pop up then as a new window in your screen.
Hang on. There it is. Okay, perfect. I got it. So just because I don't know for sure who's all in the room, if you could just take a second to drop in the chat who you work for and what your role is so that I can kind of get an idea of who's in the room, that'd be helpful. Probation officers, reentry specialists, United Way, counselors, police managers. Workforce. Oh, DMAC, fellow community college, that's great. Okay, so kind of a wide variety of roles, which is great. Love to see that. So I guess I'll maybe just kind of stay on track with the agenda of covering everything at this much of a level. And as we go through different topics, if any of you want me to dive deeper or want me to elaborate on something, I'd rather we do it kind of as we're addressing it instead of waiting until the end. So, you know, I'll keep my chat up as well. I can multitask pretty good. So if you have questions as I'm talking, you know, then you can just send them in and we can address it as we go so that way we don't miss things as we're going. So, all right. So let's get started. What is PEER? So PEER is the short word for Pathways to Education and Employment for Reentry. When we first developed this program and we're thinking about how we want this to look, the PEER term is actually kind of what our end goal is that we want individuals in the future who have gone through our programming to come back and, you know, kind of be that peer, that mentor to individuals who are currently receiving services through our program and, you know, trying to get on their feet. We haven't quite got there yet because we're just in the first couple years of programming, but that was really kind of our thought, is that we want to create this program that allows people to get the resources that they need, get on their feet, find, you know, good employment, whether that be through means of training, and then come back and, you know, continue to help this population.
For 9:30, just go over and sit on that bench outside.
Somebody is, there you go. So what PEER is an education and career pathway program specifically designed to serve individuals with ties to the criminal justice system. For us specifically, like I said earlier, we focus on individuals in the first district. So if they are tied to someone on probation or parole within the first district or at the Black Hawk County Jail, we are providing those services to them free of charge. For them, also free of charge for the Department of Corrections. All of this is funded through our own resource development and grant writing and all of that fun stuff, which we'll get into later. But the uniqueness of our program is that we've really integrated our services into the facilities. So instead of individuals having to come to Hawkeye's main campus or, you know, come to some of our outlying centers to get training, things like that, we come to them. So we have offices at each of the men's facility, the Waterloo Women's Center for Change, and then we also spend one morning a week at the Black Hawk County Jail. So I feel like transportation is a huge barrier for individuals that are trying to get on their feet. And, you know, we've taken that away. We don't have that issue because we're right there where they're living or where they're already going to see their probation or parole officer. We're right down the hall. There's also a comfortability with that as well. They understand, you know, who, where they're going, who they're going to meet with. That trust is another piece that I think us being integrated the way that we are has allowed us to be extremely successful. So instead of just partnering with the DOC and being like, yeah, we'll provide these services to these individuals, we're really just going in and really integrating ourselves into their processes to make it very streamlined for participants. The other thing is that we really just want to provide awareness of resources. So we know not every single person that we meet with is going to turn into a Hawkeye student. That's not our goal. Our goal is to get in there, make sure that they are aware of what services can be provided to them and what employment resources there are as well. So it's never a push of like, we are here because we want you to take training through Hawkeye. It's we are here because we want to support your goals and looking at what can we do to help you get to that point. Does that include training? Great. We can help you out with that, but it doesn't necessarily always happen that way. So it's really just that awareness of what education and employment resources are available to them, and then connecting them to those, you know, depending on their individualized goal. So that's that last bullet. Is a lot of what we do is just career navigation and guidance based on those individualized goals. So what do you want to do? What is going, you know, to fulfill you? What did you want to do before that you never thought that you could because of your situation? We want to break down those barriers for you and help you figure out a way to make that happen. So they sit down with our coordinator and really talk through what their interests are. And then they develop that individualized plan and move forward from that point. So steps taken to create. So where our thoughts first started, like I said earlier, is our department is really tasked with identifying needs within the community and figuring out ways in which we can partner. So you guys know this, preaching to the choir here. A lot of individuals have criminal backgrounds. At the time in 2021, the data that we had was showing that it was like a 38% recidivism rate. And also at the time, we had a huge workforce crisis within our region. Employers could not find people to work, okay? Or they weren't meeting their standards for hiring practices, right? There were people, but they didn't necessarily want to hire them. So as we were exploring that data, we also know that education is a catalyst for change for these individuals, and that individuals who participate in job training are 48% less likely to recidivate. So our thought is, okay, we aren't providing these services currently. We know there's people that could utilize these services, and we also know there's employers in the area that could really use individuals to fill some of their job openings. So we just kind of jumped in and, you know, started creating in our heads what we thought could work as far as partnerships and whatnot with the local leadership. So that was honestly the first step for us, was getting the right people at the table. So first district leadership was the first people that we approached after we got approval from our own individual leadership at the college. But you know, we went down to the men's facility where their offices are, and we just said, hey, we have this idea. You know, we're a community college. We have potential resources that we could utilize to bring services in here to your buildings physically, present things to participants that are coming through your programs. You know, what are your thoughts? And it was yes, immediately. Yes, let's try this. Let's do this, which that was exciting, because sometimes you get a little bit of pushback, you know, in the questionings of how is this going to work, whatever. But they said yes right away, and then let's figure out the rest after that. Have you considered working with One City Momentum? Yes, actually, there has been times that Belle has met with them on site. Belle would have to speak to that, but yes, to your question, Mike, that is happening. So good question. So the other piece of the puzzle is our Black Hawk County Jail, and which is a little bit different, right? It's a jail, it's not a prison, so how things work are a little bit different. So, you know, we really had to get the support from the sheriff and the captain, and just see, is this something that we could come into the jail just to present information, not necessarily provide a ton of information, but just get that bug in individuals' heads prior to them being released, that these services are available to them, and that people are going to be waiting for them to help them get back on their feet the second that they step out. You know, that was really kind of the goal of that, creating that piece of the pie was so that we can connect with people beforehand and then continue to provide those services after the fact. So the jail social worker has been instrumental in making sure that this works within the Black Hawk County Jail. Jess, she's so great to work with. She monitors who's in the jail, who would be good to hear this information, who's getting released soon, all of that kind of stuff, so that way we can just come in and we can present the information to them and not be so worried about, is it the right time for them to hear this? You know, is it, you know, are they going to stay here? What's their situation going to be? So she does all that work on the backside for us so that way we can connect with those individuals that are appropriate at that time. Internal leadership, I kind of already mentioned. Obviously, you have to have, you know, the buy-in from the individuals within your own department and above. And Dr. Holcomb, the president of Hawkeye, was 100% on board for us trying this out and knowing that it was a chance to see, could this work, could this not? So that helped us out a lot. But one of the biggest pieces to allowing us to launch, surprisingly, is employers. So like I said earlier, resources are always an issue, but we also try really hard to make sure that the things that we're doing are on the right track and that everyone's thinking kind of in the same direction. So we approached some local employers about this idea, and they were like, yes, we have a workforce crisis. We need to figure out better ways to access populations of individuals that can fulfill our needs. So we actually got a pretty decent sum of money from a local employer to launch this. So employer contributions started this out, which I think is the coolest part of this, is that going back to that, it's a community thing, is that, you know, we had local employers on board at the start of it in hopes that this would work out. And, you know, we really have lucked out that those partnerships have continued, and they've continued to show up in various roles throughout the past couple of years of this program. I'm going to pause for a second. Any questions about the partnerships or facilitation of any of those conversations that I have talked about? I also really prefer in-person conferences versus virtual ones. So I'm trying to connect with you guys, but I'll just keep moving on. And if you have questions, just pop them in the chat. I have it open and I'll pause. Okay, so once we got all those partnerships in place, we launched pretty quickly, honestly. In 2021, it was about this time, so about 3 years ago, that we actually transitioned a department staff who was already working within a role of one of our other programs, and we transitioned her over to be the coordinator, as Val that I mentioned previously, and kind of let her start developing those internal relationships and figuring out what that schedule would look like for us to be available to everyone, whether they're female, male, they're at a work release facility, they're in community corrections. You know, we want to make sure that we're hitting everyone. So she developed a schedule that has us at the jail on Mondays, the men's facility on Tuesdays, the women's facility on Wednesdays, and then Thursday and Friday are just kind of a float days. Where are we needed? Where are we seeing more flow of individuals? And that seems to be working really, really well. The other really nice part is leadership within the first district gave us office space, which was huge because it gives our staff a place to land, to have all of the things that they need to operate efficiently, a quiet place for them to meet with individuals, all of that good stuff. So we're extremely thankful for their willingness to work with us to provide that office space. And it has worked extremely well for us to have that. As we were launching, you know, obviously held regular meetings with partner leaders to just assess their needs, offer up resources, what they're seeing, all of that kind of stuff. And then we realized really quickly that not only did we need to have staff on site to provide resources, we needed to bring classes and training programs on site, because Transportation's an issue. Time is an issue. All of the things are issues. And so we pretty much right away, that was one of the earliest things that were identified, that let's bring some training programs to the facilities. So the first thing that we brought was a fork truck, which is a 1-day certification. But a lot of the jobs that people were getting is a huge benefit for them to have that fork truck certification, whether that be to get a pay raise at their current employment, or that was their in to actually obtain that job that they were applying for. So ever since then, 2021 to this day, we actually just had one 2 weekends ago. Our fork truck instructor at Hawkeye comes down to the men's facility. They use the parking lot to operate the fork truck, the classroom on site, all that. So a person doesn't have to leave the facility. Also, if community corrections are participating, you know, it's easier. It's a downtown location, really easy to get to. And the class is always full. Every single time we run it, the class is full. They get those certifications, and then they can easily find employment if they aren't already employed, or get a pay raise pretty quickly just by that simple 1-day workshop that we brought on site. So that was one thing that was brought up immediately by leadership of like, hey, the more we can have here, the better. So we've kind of taken that feedback and pushed our own leadership to make sure that anytime that we can provide a service or a class, that it is convenient, because it's way better for the participants that are within this program. I'll talk a little bit more about some of the other courses and whatnot that we brought on site a little bit later when we talk about services, but that was a big piece to that launching point of like, okay, this is something we identified as being a big need that we ran with. So April kind of transitioned staff, and then we just enrolled 10 individuals from the time of transitioning staff to July 1st. And we really wanted to do that because we wanted to test the waters. Let's see, how does this look? You know, how much time are we going to be dedicating to these individuals? You know, what does it all look like? So we started off pretty small and with those 10, but you'll see numbers later on. It quickly expanded, and you know, we were able to definitely hit a large chunk of individuals with the different services that we offer. So currently, what are we doing? Got through launch, we got our offices, we're, you know, chugging along, and honestly, the list just keeps growing. Like every month we're like, ooh, we could have this, we could do this. Because really the opportunities are endless when you have a population of people that are right there, you know, right at your fingertips, that you can engage and get them going. So the biggest thing is that education and career exploration. So anytime someone is interested in services through us, we have that conversation with them. Okay, like even if it's just fork truck, that's 1 day, we want to make sure that it's a good fit. So, you know, what are your goals? What do you need to be successful? All of those good things. Some of that career exploration may include simulators and virtual reality. So we actually have, John Deere has a welding simulator that they bring down to the facility every couple of months to allow people to weld on virtual reality or simulators so they can see if that's something that would interest them. It also gives individuals an opportunity to speak with the employer on site, you know, hopefully set a good precedent for who they are in case they decide to apply for a job in the future, that kind of thing. But we really try to do our best to bring things that they can experience prior to them jumping into something that they may not necessarily know what they're getting themselves into. So we have construction equipment simulators, you know, learn how to do a backhoe on a computer. You know, we'll bring that kind of stuff down to the facilities so that way they have that opportunity. Once they get through that process of figuring out, you know, what they want to be when they get older or whatever that looks like, then we'll move them into the education and training if they need it. Again, only if. If they want to go get a job and they just need help developing their resume, great. Let's help you do that and get you moving. But a lot of cases, it is very beneficial for them to get a little bit of training, get a certificate, so that way they're more employable upon completion of that. So I already talked about forklift is offered on site. The newest one that we're going to be doing on site as well is our health support professional class, which is CNA. That the instructor is coming on site to the women's facility and is going to be offering that class for them to take, and then ultimately test, and take their state boards to become a certified nursing assistant. So those are just two examples, but any education or training that Hawkeye has to offer, Peer will help support. So if they want to be a CNC machinist, if they want to do information technology, if they want to do medical coding, whatever that might be, we will help them get to those training programs and pay for those training programs as well with the resources that we have with the program. So none of it is at cost to them if they do decide to pursue their education, which is obviously another huge barrier. So eliminating that financial strain for those individuals who want to continue on and get those certifications. The next thing that we decided to do is offer up high school completion classes at the men's facility. So again, another barrier that First District leadership brought to us was we have individuals that need their high school diploma, and that can be a barrier to them to being successful. So we hired on a high school completion instructor. She's full-time. She's actually down at the men's facility right now. We'll have classes this afternoon. So anyone that is needing to get their high school equivalency can access those classes right on site at the men's work release facility. We also have an adult learning center that offers those classes as well. But sometimes those schedules don't work out, right? So it's just a partnership between them and us to make sure that we are providing as many different options for individuals to get that high school equivalency and check that box off essentially so that they are more employable as well. We just launched that about 1.5 years ago. And obviously that takes time to get up and running and all of that kind of stuff. But we do have 2 people who have gotten their high school equivalency since we started, and a lot of people who have tested. There's 5 tests that they have to take, that are halfway through or just 1 test away right now. So we're really excited to see what those numbers are going to show in the future. But that has also gone really well, and having the support of the First District in a classroom, to have those classes and that kind of stuff has been a really great partnership as well for that. Other things that we do, transition fairs, hiring events will help with FAFSA completion, really anything that a person needs to either access education or employment, depending on what that is. So, we really try to just be very open with what are the needs, what are we seeing people ask a lot of questions about, and then just making sure that we provide whatever resources we can to eliminate those barriers. The last thing that we most recently launched was offering the 12-hour DUI class on site. So previously in our community, Hawkeye teaches those classes, and it's out at our Cedar Falls Center, which is, if you know Waterloo, Cedar Falls, that's like a 20-minute drive from the facilities to get to that location to take that class. And we have this population of people who are here that need it, that don't have transportation because they don't have the, it's just crazy, that is such a small adjustment in how we're offering that class, but has been extremely impactful. So we don't pay for this class for them. They have to pay for it just like any other time, but we were just kind of that catalyst to, hey, light bulb, can we just have the instructor teach this class here instead of making all of these people go out to the Cedar Falls Center to access this course? So we just had one last week that 4 people took that were all down there at the men's facility. So just simple little things sometimes that make a big difference for people, because now that's, one less barrier that that person has to try to figure out to become successful in, getting his transportation, which can be a huge impact to all of the other things in your life. So that has been cool to kind of see all of those things work out as well. Questions on the services. Can an incarcerated individual connect with you before leaving prison? If so, how does that happen? Those are actually conversations that First District leadership are having, because we don't have a direct connection to prisons, because we don't have any locally, they're coming from outside. So if you have ideas on how those communication could be better facilitated, that'd be great. We have contact points that are kind of, gray, if that makes sense, of they know we exist, but we don't have any very distinct processes that allow us to make sure that everyone that's leaving the prisons that are coming to Waterloo, that they know we exist. What we have done is put in all of our information in intake packets. So anytime someone does come here, they receive that information at intake, but they don't necessarily get that ahead of that time. Katrina, great. Please, yes, I will make note of that and we can make that happen. Got it. Thank you. Okay, there were some other chats that came through. For the education classes provided, do they have relationships with fair chance hiring? CNA could be a barrier for people that have a background. I don't know what specifically you're talking about with fair chance hiring, but I will speak to the CNA and the background. So what we have implemented is that they actually go through the background check that is required by the state before they take the class, so that way we know for sure they're going to be able to be hired. And we have wage subsidies that we're working with employers that we can say, hey, we know they can pass the background check because they've already done this, but we also have wage subsidies that we can provide to you if you hire this participant for your open position working as a CNA. So we're basically making sure that, one, we're not setting them up for failure, because we don't want them to go into a career field that their background is going to be an issue. So we're having those conversations very early on, but we're also trying to incentivize employers to take bigger risks as well with this population of individuals. If that helps. Perfect. Any other questions before I move on? All good things. Awesome. Okay, so next thing is finding resources, right? Because everything costs. And you can't just provide these services to individuals without the resources. So I already talked about, we were super thankful that we were able to get financial support from a local employer to help us launch this program. And with that, college leadership also stepped up and said, okay, hey, we know that this is a worthwhile, program that we need to invest some of our own funds into, so that way we can see if this works, essentially. So college leadership agreed to provide funding to support the staffing of the program, so that way we could utilize other resources to provide all those other supports. The cost for them to, access those training programs, support services, all of that kind of stuff, we were able to utilize the other dollars that we got to go straight to the participants, so that they didn't have any costs related to their education or training or, other employment related barriers. So The state of Iowa has a variety of funding that the colleges get: workforce training and economic development funds, GAP tuition assistance dollars, PACE dollars. Those are just a few. There's a lot more than that, but we really just kind of got creative as a department and went, okay, like, how can we provide these services to this population of individuals to get this program up and off the ground and running? So after we kind of did that and figured out a way to pay for it ourselves in a way, we applied for local community foundation grant and received that award. So we were able to continue to, you know, keep pumping out services and keep providing these supports to individuals. That funding lasted us about 6 months. But then we hit jackpot and we applied for Department of Justice Second Chance Act grant that is going to fully fund the program for 3 years. So we are just about 6 months into that right now, and are extremely excited that we have the ability to do everything that I've talked about and then more, because we have more resources that are available to us as well. So grant writing has been a huge part of our success and being able to find resources, and then really just getting creative with our budgets and figuring out how we can make things happen with what we have already in existence. So that's kind of a rundown of the resources side of things. And if you have any ideas of where money comes from, you can send those ideas my way as well. Always looking for that. Constantly looking for money, but that's a good thing. That means we have people to serve and, you know, ideas to come to fruition. So, all right, so now I'm going to move into program highlights. Like I said, in 21, we started out small right at the end of the fiscal year, so we only served 10. In 22, we served 128 individuals. Again, at that point, we only had 1 staff person. So if any of you know the intricacies of case management, especially when you combine it with education and training and all of that, that's quite a few people for one person to work with and to serve. Then you'll see a little bit of a dip. Why? Because we figured out we need to be spending more time with these people and be a little bit more intensive in how we're going about things. And we also launched our high school completion program during that time. So we kind of, you know, we're like, okay, we got to scale back a little bit so that way we are providing good services to individuals, and that we know, you know, what we're doing is headed in the right direction. With 3 months remaining, though, in 24, we're at 117. So I think we've definitely figured out kind of our sweet spot of where we need to be, what we need to be doing. We're on track probably to hit 150 individuals in this fiscal year. I would assume. We'll see. You just never know with this population, but that's exciting for us, because that's 150 people that we helped find employment, you know, or increase their wages or access training. Any of those things fall into that category. And, you know, that's an exciting number. So we're hopeful that will continue to be the case. That's our goal for the grant is to serve at least that many people every year. And so I don't foresee that being an issue at all. But the coolest thing is that this last grant that we had to submit details for, we pulled recidivism data for those individuals, and it was 6.1% of the individuals that we were serving during that grant period, which you guys know better than me, but to me, that's a pretty good number to see that those individuals are staying out of trouble and doing what they're supposed to be doing, and accessing the resources and staying in touch with us, and just kind of continuing on their pathway into the future. So speaking of success, this is a lot of words, but I didn't want to leave out any details, so I threw it all on the slides. But I put in 2 success stories here just so that you can kind of get an idea of, you know, some of the potential pathways that individuals go through with us. So this individual was interested in getting her Class A CDL so that she could have some financial freedom and find a job that she loved. It was interest to her, but she knew she wasn't going to be able to pay for it because the training is like $5,000, which our training program at Hawkeye is a little bit more expensive, but it's an excellent program. So she came to Peer and got the financial assistance that she needed and got her enrolled into the class. Transportation is a great field for these individuals to go into. Many employers do not care. Like, you show up to work and you have your license, that's all that really matters to them, and can pass the DOT drug screen and physical. But we knew that it was going to be a good fit for her based on her background that she had. And she got some support services, like help with her drug screen and physical, her permit, and she found employment, and she actually started making $25 an hour, was her rate of pay starting, $25 an hour, which is pretty life-changing for her, as she wasn't employed when she first came to us. So that's just one example. The next one is a little bit different. Dr. Skinner mentioned apprenticeships actually in this Introduction to Construction Trades is actually a quality pre-apprenticeship program that we have in Waterloo. And so this individual came through Peer as well, interested in construction trades. So we put him into this quality pre-apprenticeship program. But he was really close to finishing his associate's degree when he came to us. He had like 2 semesters left, and he'd have his associate's degree. So he finished the We Built Waterloo program, which I think gave him a little bit of motivation to know, like, I can do this. Like, I can be successful. I can pass these classes. I can do this. So he finished the classes and ended up, now he's enrolled in credit programming at Hawkeye, and will be graduating in December, I believe is his graduation date. And his plan then, after he gets his associate's degree, is to come back to our programming and get connected with employers that can place him in a registered apprenticeship program. And he will have a way quicker start on getting those higher wages and all of that with registered apprenticeships, with all that education that he's able to get through our program. Okay, so future plans, like I said, that health support professional class is set to launch in June. So we already have kind of the frameworks of everything. We're really excited to see how that goes. And then potentially implementing more training programs like that into the facilities. The wage subsidies I mentioned earlier, that will allow us to partner with employers to hire peer participants, I think will be very impactful for some individuals to find employment in their interest area. More availability of trainings on site. And then we really want to try to focus on increasing that high school completion numbers that we have. We've done a few things recently that we've seen a spike in that. So it's really just kind of figuring out what works for the specific population. How long are the classes, what time of day are the classes, all that kind of stuff, and just kind of brainstorming ways in which we can grow that a little bit more. But really then it's just guidance from the first district, the probation and parole officers, allowing, them to give us feedback on what's working, what's not working, what we need to do differently, all of that kind of stuff, is kind of where we're sitting now with our program and hopes for the future. So it was a lot of me talking for 45 minutes. So are there other questions about what we're doing here, or thoughts that you have within your role, feedback that you can give us too on how we could make things better or offer different things? Churches, yes. So Val Peterson, actually, she has the church row, I think is what it's called. She's one of our staff members that has a good connection with them. But yes, I agree. I'm going to jot that down though too to check in on that. Other questions or thoughts?
Keri, thank you so much for all of this information. I know I took a ton of notes.
Good.
Congratulations on the second chance grant.
Yes.
Those are tough. And I am pretty sure that I know my organization will be reaching out to you. So hopefully you'll become very busy with providing guidance for all of us to expand, either start what you've got going or expand what we currently do.
Yes, I would love that. Feel free to reach out at any time, and we'd be more than happy to connect and answer any questions in the future.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
Yes, thank you.
Mhm.